We're at the home of Kenny Hammond in Sapulpa. And Kenny, you're a fourth-generation beekeeper, right?
Yes, I am.
That's really interesting to me.
Great-grandfather and I would have had 1,500 colonies at one time.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And how many do you have now?
I have 31 hives.
Wow. And a lot of those are in a fairly small space. I found that interesting that you can have multiple hives adjacent to one another.
Well, each queen emits a pheromone that is unique to that hive. And what you're seeing on the front porch of these hives here are guard bees.
Mm-hmm.
And if a bee from a different colony tries to get in, the smell is not right, and there will be a battle.
Okay.
So basically the guard bees are out here making sure that the right ones are coming and going.
The right bees.
Right.
And we're also seeing some other bees coming in and out, and different bees have different jobs,
Exactly.
right?
What you're seeing going in and out are actually your forage bees. They're out looking for pollen and nectar.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically the last step of their lifetime is that they're a forager. Early on when they first hatch out as a full-size bee, and they are cleaning the house. They actually clean the cells that they came out of.
Okay.
And that way that when the queen comes back around, she'll have a whole area to start laying new eggs in.
Okay.
And then from that step, there's a time period where their wax glands, they have 6 wax glands that are very active at a young age. And they will repair cells, they'll cap cells, they'll make new comb, and then they've got a step in there where they actually feed the babies, the larvae.
Right.
And what they do on that is they first learn how to feed the large larvae to see how they have to be tender with them, because they have to be extra tender with the very small larvae. Mm-hmm. And so they learn that process.
Yeah, practice on the older ones.
And then they guard bees, and then, like I said, the last step of their existence is that they're foragers coming and going, looking for pollen and looking for nectar. And if they find an area that's real good, they'll come back and do their bee dance.
Mm-hmm.
And according to the position of the sun, they're telling the other bees, out the hive, hang a hard right, go 500 yards,
and
you're there.
And that's a little figure-8 movement.
The little figure-8 bee dance.
The waggle dance.
The waggle. And what's fun about that is that one bee will be totally circled with other bees, just sitting there watching every move she's making. It's pretty fun to watch.
Now, all of those different stages of the bee's life happen in about 6 weeks, right?
In a heavy honey flow.
The adult.
In a heavy honey flow, the bees' lifespan is about 6 weeks. They basically work themselves to death.
Well, I suited up with you so we can open up a box, but before we do that, let's look at the structure of a hive. So this is one hive.
This is one beehive. Now, on my hives, this box right here is considered a deep box, and it's the biggest box. This is called a medium, or an Illinois, and I prefer to have a medium in Illinois. Many beekeepers have 2 deeps. But we don't find it necessary in Oklahoma to have 2 deeps. And then this is their house. You never take anything out of their house. I mean, it may be full of honey, but you do not mess with
That's the honey that sustains the hive
through
and
the winter time and through the new generations, everything. Now, that green line right here, this is what's called a queen excluder. So I'm keeping her downstairs. It's not that wire thing is not so big that a regular bee cannot get through it, so they can come up and put the nectar in those cells.
But the queen's larger, so
the queen's got a big old behind on her, and she can't squeeze through, so she stays downstairs.
Well, let's take a look inside a hive.
All right.
Look at those.
This is actually
the upper cell where you collect your honey.
Okay.
Now, how many bees will live in
if you have if you have a very strong hive, like this hive over here probably has 40 to 50,000 bees in it. This swarm probably had 8 to 10,000 bees in it, and I can tell just by where the bees are or where they're not. So I'm not going to take out these frames over here. I will start right here, because I don't want to roll these bees when I take the frame out.
And what the bees are building all those little cells on there, and that's where the queen will lay eggs, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
See this frame? This frame here just has nectar in it. All of this is capped honey right here.
Okay.
This dark part here, and you can see the sparkly where the new stuff that they brought in, that's where they're depositing it that right now. But what we'll do is go one frame at a time across here.
And you're working very slowly with them, and that's very important so that you don't agitate.
Yeah, I've always found that if you're very gentle with the girls, then the girls probably won't be too mean to you.
You brought up an interesting thing just now. The majority of the bees that are doing the job are female.
That is correct. Yeah, the drone pretty much is worthless in a beehive. But see, that frame there is just all nectar and honey, and the queen won't be on that frame. But we're going to get over here in just maybe the next frame where she's actually been working. During the heavy honey flow, the nectar flow, they will have that queen laying up to 2,000 eggs a day.
That's amazing.
Now they're getting ready to replace her is what they're getting ready to do. Okay, why I'm saying that is because right here on this frame, you see that cell sticking out right there? That's a supersedure cell. So either that queen has gone down, she's died, and they're building them a new queen right here, and that's that royal jelly game we talked about where they give that new, let me see if I get that in the sun a little bit.
So they're giving one egg cell or one larva
but see that
a special food.
Yeah, that cell's still sticking out quite a ways, and it's at a slant down. If it was a drone cell, it would be higher than these others. All of these right here that are capped like that, those are worker bees. A drone cell sticks out quite a bit further, but it just sticks straight out. This one right here is a very large cell, and it's actually got a slant down. So that's what's called a supersedure cell, and that's a new queen coming on. And it's not uncommon at all on a swarm for them to replace the queen.
Okay, and by that you mean this new colony you started from a swarm that you collected.
That's right.
Okay, and that's something that a lot of people get concerned about if they see a swarm of bees.
Okay.
Tell us about that.
I'll tell you about a swarm of bees. What's happened is that more times than not, their existing living location is too crowded. And so what they do is they build swarm cells, and they'll build anywhere from 10 to 15 of these swarm cells, get the queen to lay eggs in them, and then they will build new queens. And about 2 days before that first new queen comes out, the old queen, who they've quit feeding as much, so she can slim down because her butt's too big, she will slim down so she can fly. And about 2 days before that first new queen comes out, she puts out the pheromone, and half of them bail out with her, and then they ended up in a tree or on a fence line or somewhere in a big old ball. And the queen puts out the order to scout bees, go find us a new home. So they're heading every direction. They're looking for an attic, they're looking for a tree, they're looking for anything that would fit their service. And when the right one comes back with the right bill of sales, then that swarm just dissipates, goes right back up in the air, and poof, they're gone. Going on now, what happens is when that first new queen comes out, she'll locate the other queen cells and she'll chew a hole through it and sting it.
With your active hives, how much honey do you collect from those?
They say as a rule, if you can get 60 pounds average off of a hive, you're doing good. And I had a hive 2 years ago I took almost 300 pounds off of. I took 150 pounds off a hive in my dad's backyard 2 weekends ago. So, but then the next hive down there, you may get nothing.
Right. What are some of the other products that you might get out of a beehive?
Okay. Of course, the main thing I deal with is the honey.
Right.
There are some people that put a trap on the front doorstep called a pollen trap. So that's one item. Another item is propolis, which is their natural glue. This is what they put on their box edges. If they don't have a tight fit, they'll actually propolize it and cut off any airflow, that kind of stuff. And then when it's hot, that stuff is sticky. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. But
what's that used for?
The biggest thing they use propolis for is women's makeup.
Because it's a natural glue,
guess
an adhesive.
it's a natural stick job, I guess. I don't know. But The other thing that we get out is beeswax.
Right.
And I have a solar melter that I put my cappings from my honey that I cut off into the solar melter, and I'll make bricks of beeswax.
And what about the comb itself?
Okay, now the comb itself, when I harvest a hive like this one over here that's got all these honey boxes on it, I want to keep that comb and store it and use it for next season's crop, because it takes, if you don't do that, then you have to put a very fine sheet of wax foundation in the frame,
like you have,
right? And then they have to pull it out, and you lose half your honey crop by them having to pull that out.
Oh, because they're putting that into rebuilding.
Rebuilding, that is correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who wants to get started in beekeeping?
I would say the first thing is you need to go to class. I am a member of Northeast Oklahoma Beekeepers Association. It's one of the strongest bee clubs, I think, in the country. We have over 250 members, and we offer classes 2 or 3 different times a year, and they're not that expensive. I think it's like $75, and you get this huge book telling you all about it, and then you get to learn the very specifics. And I think that by going to that class, you're going to learn probably 60, maybe 70% of what you really need to know, but it gives you a good start. My recommendation to any new beekeeper is to find an experienced beekeeper and see if they will take the time and go into a hive and kind of doing what I was doing with you today, showing how to take a frame out and then look at what's the components are, what's going on that frame. And
by doing.
Exactly, hands-on.
Well, this has been really fascinating. Bees have such an interesting life cycle and their social behavior. I really appreciate you sharing with us.
Well, it was my pleasure.